Hi friends, my name is Mackenzie, also known as Emtothethird on Instagram, Ravelry, and YouTube. And this is, I think, episode 16 of the Emtothethird knitting podcast. And these little cries that you're hearing and this little troublemaker. Oh my god. This is Moose, my new family member. We adopted her at the beginning of the year on the 1st, and she's very talkative and loud and traviesa, and her food is behind me, so this is really, the craft room has become, oh my goodness. The craft room has become her room, so now when I record, she will most likely be making many guest appearances and hopefully won't distract from the videos too much. Yeah, she's 4 months old at this point, so absolutely a kitten, very rambunctious, very, again, talkative, so we'll see how she does and if I have to lock her out of the room. The last time I recorded was before Christmas, which is mind-boggling to me. But I have had a very busy first couple of months in 2020, which has been great. The first thing was I was preparing for Vogue Knitting Live, where I attended as a guest in Lady Di's booth, who is, I'm sure you know her. She's been a really big advocate in the social justice conversations happening within the knitting community, and I'm lucky enough to call her a friend. And so she invited me, along with several other women of color, into her booth to sell our yarn at Vogue Knitting for the opportunity to be, you know, there. And I had a very interesting experience. I met a lot of really awesome people. Thanks to everyone who said hi and stopped by and bought some yarn. I think Vogue Knitting, you know, which happens like in Times Square in Manhattan, is just so not my crowd, which is a little like bit of a bummer. It's just not farm yarn specific. Everything was very similar, you know, just everything that's in right now, superwash yarn, speckles, neon colors. There were a few standouts, but you know, I think that Diane did a great job of curating a very different booth experience, and a lot of people enjoyed it, and it was really awesome. I feel very lucky to have been there with all the other amazing women, who I will link below. Mitchell's Creations, Mitchell's Fibers, Tara from that. I know I'm missing people. Claudia from Crochet Luna, obviously Diane's yarn. I'm gonna link everyone who was there with me in the description below, but everyone was just like so sweet and welcoming, and yeah, I had such a great time. So yeah, that happened at the end of January, mid-January. And then, so, you know, that was a whole weekend away knitting like frenzy. And then last weekend was the Boston Farm and Fiber Festival, which is right in my backyard. It's like a 15-minute drive for me, and it's the second year that I attended, and that was so fantastic. You know, it's just totally like, it's so farm yarn centric. My neighbors are leaving, so Maple is excited. I'm home alone this weekend. It's President's Day weekend, and Kay is at a conference, so I am here with both of my maniacal animals, which is fun, but also a lot of work. So yeah, I'm chilling out and trying to get this podcast done. This is, I think, the 6th or 7th time I've sat down. Like, I have the whole podcast recorded in other iterations, and it just was not, it wasn't cutting it. So here I am doing it again. I'm like ready to do this. I went out for a Valentine's Day brunch with one of my best friends, Molly, this morning, and it was so good. It was like it's a Spanish restaurant, so they like have like kind of tapas, and I had tortilla, which is like the Spanish version. It's like for breakfast, it's egg and potato with like some chipotle aioli, also some amazing Brussels sprouts, some ricotta toast, and then we both shared at the end this like creme brulee, which just, man, it was what we needed, especially because it is so cold outside this morning. Okay, all of that to say, I was at the Boston Farm and Fiber Festival last weekend, and I debuted my new DK weight yarn called Liminal, which I've been talking about a little bit. I had it spun for me in New York by MJ Packer, who also attended the event, so it was great to see her and show her, you know, her yarn that I am now dyeing. So I've just been very busy juggling all of the Fiber Festival prep with work, which is why I've been a little scarce on YouTube, and I'm really glad to be back, because I really enjoy it, and I think it's just been like such a great way to make community. So here I am. More things that happened at the Boston Fiber Festival. I was neighbors with Purgatory Falls Alpaca Farm, and also Great Bay Wool Works, who largely focus on Romney. And they were all so encouraging, and you know, they've been doing these sort of festival, like fiber festivals, for a long time, and you know, just had nothing but great words of encouragement and advice to give me, which I just so appreciate. And just so many people stopped by and bought yarn. I sold multiple sweater quantities of the new yarn that I, you know, had debuted that was from MJ Packer's mill, which I'm going to be doing a video series about that process and how that's kind of come about. But yeah, that was just so fantastic, and I was just truly, like, I got so many nice compliments, and I had just a great time meeting people. And yeah, so thank you so much to everyone who came out and said hi, and, you know, also shared that they watched these videos, because it, you know, sometimes it can feel like I'm screaming into the void, and I really do want to be engaging with people. And, you know, just every person who comes up and just says that they watched it and they are enjoying it, and they feel like, you know, even if it is that, it means a lot to me. So thank you so much for supporting my little business. It means a lot to me. So because I haven't recorded, I have a lot of knitting that I've been working on. The first of which, of course, is this FO, which is the sweater that I was working on last time. So this is out of Loop Fiber Studios. I'm gonna insert a whole video of me like modeling it, so I'm not gonna stand up or anything. It is knit out of their unfortunately named colorways, like, or their unfortunately named line, Yin and Yang, which, you know, there's just so many other ways to describe polarity that aren't appropriative. So the colorways that I knit this out of are Have Your Cake and Eat It Too. Which, you know, like, the whole thing is so clever, I just truly wish it wasn't called Yin and Yang. So one of the things that I wanted to do this year, one of my goals, I don't really set resolutions, I just have general goals, and you know, if they happen, this didn't really line up with, like, January 1st, this is what I'm doing, but it kind of ties into like all the New Year's thoughts and feelings of resolutions, right? So one of my goals is to publish a sweater pattern. And so this is a second version of a sweater that I've been working on. And here are some of the significant pieces of it. One is that it has, it is striped, but I do a couple rows of color work in between, like, as the transition happens, so that it's not quite just so like lines. I also do a combination of a circular yoke and a raglan yoke, which I find very flattering on myself, And also when there's stripes, I feel like it just flows a little bit better. So the other piece, as you'll see in that video, is that it has a split hem with a curved waistline, so it's very, again, like flattering, even though fuck flattering, but you know, it's exactly the kind of sweater that I always want, and it you know, accents my waist in the way I like it to. So yeah, I'm very pleased with how it turned out. It is very warm. The yarn is also 100% merino, so I am noticing already some pilling like on the sleeve, and what I'm hoping is that, you know, as I wear it and then depill it, it will stop doing that. But you know, that's kind of the problem with these soft fibers and this merino. So I don't know, I will keep you updated on that. I also have a really great way to like weave in the ends as you are knitting. So, you know, when and if and etc. I release this pattern, that will all be included in video tutorials. So yeah, I'm like really, you know, this is the second time I've knit this. It turned out way better than the first time. There are still a couple modifications I want to make, but overall it's like I've been wearing it kind of nonstop. So yeah, that's been really, really nice. The other finished object I have, I've also been wearing, and they don't look as pretty because they're socks. But I finally finished these. Yeah, that's not cute. Into the Woods sock by Melody Hoffman. I'm just gonna insert a photo here of them finished and nice, like right after I cast them off. And that is with Urso Fiber Co. from Montreal, or Quebec. I'm sorry, Canada. I don't know that they're in Montreal. They're French Canadian. So it's their BFL, and the BFL, it's such a nice fiber to work with. I think these socks are fantastic. I'll let you know how they hold up. You know, keep you updated, but so far they've just been lovely to wear. They're very warm because they're not super wash, and I've just been, yeah, thoroughly enjoying wearing, and I enjoyed knitting them, and yeah, I have nothing bad to say about that. So I do have also progress on a long-standing whip, and then yeah, let's see what's up. So I've been working since pretty shortly after Rhinebeck on the Juniper sweater. I just cast off, this is the back of it, so the back is all lace with a split hem, and then there's drop, shoulder, sleeve construction. So this is the back I just finished. I talked about this on the last episode, that I am adding some neck shaping because the pattern is written that you basically just make two rectangles and seam them together and leave a spot open for your head to fit through. But I knew that would come up here and bug me, so I added neck shaping. So this is again the back, and I'm gonna have a little bit deeper of a neck hole on the front, and the front is just reverse stockinette with a slip stitch right up the center. I also added 2 inches to the front, so I'll have to kind of figure out how that's gonna work with the neck decreases and make sure the shoulder seams will seam up nicely. But I have more width on my front, so I thought that would be an easy way to just make sure that it was boxy enough to fit the way I wanted to. So I'll keep you updated with that. I did cast on the ribbing, so I'm getting going, and hopefully that can be like my work knitting, because I take knitting into meetings a lot, and because I'm not knitting any socks right now, that would be a good option because it doesn't require a ton of thought. Oh my goodness, kitty, what are you doing? The biggest traviesa of a kitten I've ever had. And I'm not sure if it's because there's only one of her, and if she had another buddy, they would be more entertained, but she and Maple actually get along really, really well. Oh yeah, bite my hand. Like, she's very confident and friendly, but also kind of a pain in the butt. So yeah, do you hear her? I did get back kind of excited that I hadn't completely sold out of liminal because I've been wanting to make myself a sweater, and what a better time than, you know, after getting all of this praise. And, you know, I think samples just help so much with sweaters. So I started a sweater. This is, I want to say it's Sweetgrass by the Petite Knitter, but I'll double check that, and if it's wrong, I'll correct it here. And so I'm using this skein. Yeah, it looks basically white on screen. That is a very light lilac that is dyed with logwood, and the just plain white. This is left over from a swatch that I made, but I think the contrast just isn't high enough. I mean, I could keep going, but I think it needs to just be slightly more contrasty, which is a bummer. But, you know, I'm just trying to enjoy knitting this, and I do just love this yarn that I helped create. So that's like, I mean, what more could I ask for? Basically nothing. That will be available soon. I need to photograph it, and I'm trying not to rush myself too much because I also have more to dye. And I got some pre-orders at the festival. So once I'm done with those, I will again start dyeing more skeins, and then I'll do a big shop update with, you know, a video describing the process of making it. So yeah, that's really exciting. So anyway, all that to say that this sweater that I just showed you is probably gonna just be unraveled later today, and then I'll get started on it again. But thankfully I have like the whole weekend to myself, so I'll probably make at least a little bit of headway on it. I have been very intentional at all these festivals not to buy a ton of yarn. Partially what makes it easier, I guess, is what I should say, is that I'm really making the yarn that I want to knit with. And, you know, there is definitely yarn out there that I see and have hard eyes for. And that was especially true at the Farm and Fiber Festival. But I've been, again, very good at just making sure I'm not like buying off more than I can chew. So I did make a couple purchases that I want to share at Vogue Knitting because they were unique, I felt, to what I was seeing. And it is not yarn. It is this amazing yarn bowl that is like such good like 90s funfetti colors, I think. And the bottom, it's hoof print pottery. Look at how cute there. It was a couple, and they did have farm yarn with them, but they also have a ton of ceramics that they were selling. So I got this adorable bucket, yarn bowl. It's not bucket, geez. And these ceramic buttons that are like totally in my color. Yeah, they're beautiful. There's 8 of them, so that should be fine for a little cardigan or something. And I was wondering if you'd be interested in purchasing some of them, because I might wholesale some for festivals and the website. So think about that. Let me know. And then, so that was from Vogue Knitting Live again. And they were super sweet couple. I like thoroughly enjoyed my purchases, and I've been using it. It's like the perfect size this bowl is for keeping like a sock project that I move with me around the house. So yeah, I've been really enjoying that. And then I also picked up some farm yarn at the Boston Farm and Fiber Festival, mostly to incorporate into some colorwork sweaters with my naturally dyed yarn liminal. So this is from Great Bay Woolworks, who are my booth neighbors. It is, let me look at the label here. It's like a DK weight. Well, it's 200 yards, so it's like, I guess more of a, oh, but 3 to 4 ounces. So it's like DK worsted. I think this one is Romney, and these are the natural colors that are making it marled, and you know, love me a marl. And then these two are from Fox Hill Farm. I bought some of their yarn last year, and they're always at Rhinebeck. It's extremely soft. Usually they do Cormo. This is Romney, and it's again like a 2-ply worsted, so I figured it would, you know, squish down enough to be able to work with liminal, which is technically a DK weight. So yeah, those were just my like little farm purchases to support my neighbors and you know, other small farm yarn companies that were at the festival. So yeah, that's kind of all I've been doing. I did also want to talk about interchangeable needle sets because I have had for years now an Ayyyy Turbo Lace needle set, the Ayyyy Clicks, which I love that join because they like never unscrewed with me. But I've been having an issue with eczema on my hands. Right now it is very calm comparatively, but I have like these little scaly patches, like sometimes they show up. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because I like couldn't figure out what was happening to them. Oh, come on, focus. Well, anyway, you don't need to look at my scaly skin, I guess. And you know, I was truly just unsure. I just, you know, I was using like steroid cream intermittently and it would get better and then it would get worse again. And you are such a troublemaker. I'm using steroid cream and like it would get bad and then it would get better. And I finally met someone a while ago and they said that they're allergic. Ow! I met someone randomly who was telling me that they had a rubber allergy, and I was like, rubber? And that I was like, I don't think that's what I have. But she also mentioned that she had a nickel allergy that causes like severe eczema when she like touches it. And I was like, oh, are there nickel plated knitting needles? And so I started doing some research, and it turns out that the Ayyyys, the ones that I have from several years ago, are in fact nickel plated. And so I started experimenting and basically only using needles that I had that were not nickel plated, which include the Chiaogu needles on the red, oh my god, this cat, on the red cable, and those don't have nickel, they're steel. And so I've been using those, and I do have a little bit of eczema right now, but it has been so much more manageable. and my hands are like not nearly as bad. I mean, it was like on my palm, all over my thumb, and now I have a couple spots, but it has like cleared up. So I also would say that that is a much more common allergy than a lot of the typical ones that people point to, like wool, for instance. And it has made a huge difference in my life, and comfort levels, and maybe I just wanted to mention it because maybe you have a similar issue and maybe that will make a big difference for you. So I just knit so much and, you know, have so many projects that I am buying the Ayyyy interchangeable set that of the needles that I've been using. So I'll let you know how that is. I'm a little nervous just because they are screwed on needles instead of like click, but we'll see how they go. I've been really enjoying knitting with those metal needles, so I figured that was the next best option. So it is February. Yesterday was Valentine's Day, so it's like right smack dab in the middle of February. And it's always around this time that I start thinking about gardening and like, I mean, I think about it during the summer and stuff, but I really have been kind of like fantasizing about planting and eating vegetables, and it's like a little sad. We've also had some very unusually warm days here in Boston, so like my internal clock is like ready to start starting seeds and whatnot, but it's like not time yet. I mean, it's actually closer now than it was in January when I was feeling this way. But I've started doing a couple of things to kind of prepare for gardening season. One of which is that Kay and I started doing bokashi composting in our house. And it's been very, like, I think composting almost feels like magic to me. And I know it's like very scientific, but we've been basically, it's a method where you put all of your food scraps in an anaerobic environment and feed it with the same kind of bacteria that is used to ferment like kraut and sourdough, so the lactobacillus. And so you're basically like feeding in this oh my god, bacteria, so that it starts to break down your food, and then you bury it in your garden and it turns into this like lush compost. So we have been doing it and it doesn't smell, it's anaerobic, so there's no this little troublemaker, I swear to god. Leave my plants alone, babe. Yeah, it's okay. So we've started doing this bokashi composting. I've been wanting to get into, but like start composting. I've gotten a worm bin previously. So anytime you're kind of in like, I mean, we have outdoor space in this house, but you know, we really only have like authority. I don't think authority is the right word, but you know, I just don't want to trouble like the landlord and neighbors any more than I have to. So the bokashi was a really great option because we could do it. It's all kind of self-contained, and we do have a specific place to garden in the yard. And so yeah, I just thought this would work, and it does work in like container gardening spaces. So yeah, I'll definitely keep you updated. So far it's been great. It makes me feel a lot better about you know, when veggies go bad in the fridge, which in Boston happens way more than it did in California, just because they're traveling further, and that's especially true in the winter. So that's like one thing. I've also been like doing a little bit of garden planning and basically just deciding that I'm going to focus on dye plants and other like herbs probably, just because we, Kay and I get a CSA every year, and there's usually already too many vegetables for us to like eat, so it just doesn't totally make sense to do vegetables unless they're very special. And There are some peppers that I would love to grow, but we don't get a ton of, like, we don't get full sun in our little plot because a tree has grown over it. So, you know, there's all these things to take into consideration. And, you know, I'd rather support local farmers who do it better and than I can right now with what I have. So anyway, those are just some things that I've been thinking of. I also got my sourdough starter like going again. So yeah, I'm just like feeling very motivated and kind of settling into a routine after the, you know, chaos of starting a new job and keeping up with the yarn business. And now everything's kind of like leveling out, which I really appreciate. The last, I promise, order of business that I wanted to chat about is the Emtothethird MaeKlong that is occurring over the course of this year. So we're about a month and a half in, and there's a great community on Slack that's been chatting and helping one another. Slack is an instant messaging platform that is a little bit more specific than that. But it's a great way to talk to different people and to have sort of a record of the conversation in opposition to, say, Instagram, where to kind of follow a conversation you have to kind of jump around, and a lot of people, it's complicated. It's not a platform that's meant for community building. And Slack, despite the fact that it is created with the intention of sort of making a workspace more collaborative, has been a great way for the Emtothethird community to get together. So if you're not already joined on Slack, I'll put a link down below, and you can head there to join us and chat. And I did want to talk a little bit about the MaeKlong. So this month's worksheet was about sort of breaking up the goals that we set in January's worksheet. So my goals were to only add clothing that are mostly natural fibers, if not exclusively natural fibers. The other goal is to basically get to a point where half of my wardrobe is me made from a slow fashion company whose ethics I agree with. Again, fitting into the natural fibers category is part of that, or has been mended or has been thrifted. And then throughout all of that, I will also be incorporating mending projects, which is kind of easy for me because I already do that on a consistent basis. Include something that is naturally dyed, again, kind of an easy one for me. To stash dye for a project, to go and grab something that has been in your stash for, you know, a while. And so I'm definitely pulling out some things that have been in my stash for sometimes years and turning them into a garment. And also to approach a long-standing work in progress. And to decide whether to rip it out, decide whether to finish it, just kind of like get to a point where there are no whips left at the end of the year, or just to kind of have a plan set in place for what is going to happen with them. So that's what I'm working on. And so this month's challenge was to take a photo of yourself, just like get ready for work in the morning or school or whatever it is that you're going to, even if you're working from home, and to take a photo of whatever you decide to wear. And do that for a week, and don't really analyze it, just like get your 7 photos of your outfits. And you know, you don't even have to share them with anyone. And then at the end of the week, when you sit down to work on the February worksheet, you can lay them out, you know, pull them up on your computer and, you know, think about why you went for the outfits that you liked. You know, think about, you know, just like viscerally, if you like the outfit on yourself, if you liked wearing the outfit, and why, and start piecing together what makes you happiest in your clothing. So I did this exercise, and I'll show you my photos. I'll pop them up on the screen here. And yeah, what it's helping me do is to kind of figure out what kind of color palette I want to get my clothes into, because I don't like very muted like neutrals. I do like to have color in there, but I also have a pretty specific color palette. So, you know, having a pair of pants that is a color that will work with several of my hand knit sweaters, for instance. I noticed that there's like a very specific color of pink that I have in a pair of ready to wear pants that I would really like to make in a natural fiber and you know, in like a more sustainable material. So I mean, I'm still wearing those pants. It doesn't mean that I'm gonna just toss them out or anything like that. But you know, I know that I really like those pants, but I also know they're kind of on their way out just because of the material they're made out of and blah, blah, blah. So what I'm doing with that information plus the new worksheet and, you know, all my goals is kind of reconfiguring my goals to be a little bit more tangible. So since my first goal is to get to a point where my wardrobe is 50% handmade, mended, thrifted, etc., etc., I sort of broke that down and figured out how many items I would need to replace, how many items I would need to mend, and then sort of counteract all of that with new acquisitions to my closet if I'm deciding to go shopping this year and whatnot. So far this year I have thrifted an all wool cardigan, which is gonna need to, I didn't know this when I bought it, but is gonna need a little bit of mending now that I've worn it. I've also obviously finished this sweater, which is a wool sweater, which is great. And I did buy a pair of pants that were from Old Navy, but they were 55% linen. So, you know, like all of these things, like there's just not hard rules, and I want to stress that that's kind of the point of this MaeKlong and why I wanted to start it in the first place, is to really just be conscious about what we're buying. And like, I don't want to feel guilt if I need, or like it makes sense for me to buy a pair of pants from Old Navy. You know, I just want to kind of be conscious that I did that and what the purpose of it was. And part of the purpose was to find a pair of pants that fit me in a way that I like so that I can sew a pair. And that might not be the case for everyone, but that's sort of where my mind was. And I think I'm going to get a lot of use out of them. So, you know, that's what works out for me. And so I want to stress that there's not a right way to do this, and that is the point of my MaeKlong. And I really hope, I mean, everyone in the group I think is echoing that sentiment, and so if that sounds like something that you're really interested in, I'd really encourage you to sign up for the Slack group. Follow me on Instagram, you know, do whatever it is to feel like you're a part of it, because we're having some really great conversations and also a very supportive group. And yeah, I just feel grateful that I can kind of foster that kind of community in this like very disjointed online age. Well, I mean, I talked for a while. I am this afternoon going to be filming a bunch of mending tutorials which have been requested through Slack. So I'll save that. That's going to go out in March, so it's going to give me a little bit of time to edit them. And if you are interested in a specific tutorial, I'd highly recommend joining the Slack group, because that's sort of the first line of fire for people who are interested in seeing something specific. I'm really excited to do these tutorials and to get into Mend It March, which is what I am calling it. I'm very grateful to all of you for sticking around, being part of this community, and I'll see you next time. Bye.